super challenging. It's got difficulties in every sort of facet of the business. It's a very, very tough industry.
Did New York make a mistake by allowing hemp farmers the first crack at cannabis production? It really depends on who you ask. While the state has a slew of larger problems now in its hands, the choice to use established hemp farmers had many debating the issue for months. On the anti-side were the THC experts, largely from the legacy market, who felt that hemp and other crop producers weren't ready for THC production in the state. Others, like Naturae CEO Nicolas Guarino, feels that he and others with a history of growing cannabis, hemp, and other products can and have shown they can make it. They cite increased product quality since the market's rollout in December 22, and they can say that more is on the way. I'll leave it up to you to decide if the product quality is getting to where it should be. One thing I know is I've heard from a lot of folks who said it was a mistake starting with hemp producers. So now I wanted to hear from someone on the other side of the conversation. So this past August, I headed up to Albany to visit Nick and Naturae, where I got to tour the grounds and talk to Nick about a ton of issues, including the state's slow rollout, the uncertainty of social equity, struggle with pricing, and is it a mistake to start with hemp farmers? First, I want to give him a minute to showcase the brand. So let's learn a little bit about that before diving into the issues.
4 brands now, and John T, Resonators, Jumbo-Dos, and Critical Concentrates. John T, it's a distillate-focused brand which has John T vapes. You can see them up here, 9 SKUs of 510 threaded carts. And then on the vapes, we also have John T Infusions, which is really like inspiration from the Elf Bar. It's a disposable that's fruit flavored. This is John T Edibles, which again, all of John T is focused on distillate. Jumbo-Dos is our tincture brand, which uses minor cannabinoids for different effects based on the minor cannabinoid that we're using in. Those are also distillate based, but we're going to be bringing on rosin drops by Jumbo-Dos, which will be again another tincture form, but with rosin. I think Resonators is our solventless brand. So right now we've just got hash gummies in the market. We're gonna have Resonators disposable pens in a couple of weeks. Cotton Candy Kush rosin pens. Super excited about those. Critical Concentrates is the 4th brand. So this is a brand that we're launching in partnership with Alex Q. You can see here, handcrafted by Alex Q. He formed Critical. It's a legacy to legal brand from California. And he's helped us set up our entire solventless program and all of the equipment and everything that we're doing there, the genetic selection, etc. So all of our dabbable rosin is going to be under Critical.
With 4 product lines, you'd think Naturae is well positioned to capitalize on the New York market, but as Nick tells me, no real brand can operate in this stunted New York market right now.
We've also had just kind of the challenges of distribution that we've seen upcoming. I mean, they still haven't come because the market hasn't opened up quickly enough, right? Like, Maryland, a very small state compared to New York, is doing $100 million a month in sales. Missouri, another small state compared to New York, is doing $100 million a month in sales. And New York is clawing to see if it can get to $10 million a month in sales. And it's because there's not enough outlets and there's so much politicization of the rollout with the social equity component that it has, and different groups feeling that hasn't been fair to them. So it's been exciting, and it's been great to start getting some sales on our own in-house products. As I took you around the facility to implement all the new processes that we have with water extraction for live rosin, for exciting, but we just need, like we've talked about already, this 50 stores plus critical mass so that the state actually has a legal market. Right now it's sort of toying with the beginnings of a legal market, like a year in.
Right, yeah, we're still
2 years in, really.
Yeah. Naturae once operated a CBD farm in state, but have since moved into processing. He tells me his generations of family farming and especially livestock raising has helped prepare him for cannabis cultivation, though he admits it doesn't make him an expert.
My family's for like 5 generations worked with livestock, and in the past 30 or 40 years it's been all specialty livestock with water buffalo. So I've just been close enough and operating with them in the fields, operating equipment in the fields, to have a background where it was quite easy to be very interested in it, at least to get very curious about cannabis and then learn about it in a quick manner. I wouldn't say at all that I took that background and I was like, oh, now I'm going to understand how to plant cannabis. But that combined with like large scale hemp planting outdoor was super helpful. I mean, that's the most of my professional background was really formed in cannabis with that background, with just my whole life hearing about yields, about production numbers from a unit from a biological unit, from whether it be a plant, an animal, the plants that we were growing to feed the animals, whatever it might be. That's always been super important, yield and cost.
Everyone has their opinion on the matter, and that's certainly understandable. If you checked out my interview with upstate grower Dr. Dank recently, you'd know that that's the case. But Nick, he sees it differently.
This could be a conversation that was maybe relevant like in January when the market first opened, but today in August, I would say, just go to a few stores and check out the offerings that they have with rosin gummies, hash gummies, distillate gummies, all different forms of live resin that's dabbable, all different forms of solventless live rosin that's either in disposable pens and carts, in dabbable forms, all types of beverages, quick gummies. So I would say like the extract-based category has been well taken care of in terms of the quality. Now with the flower, it has more to do with the regulations in place that prevent most farmers from being able to grow indoor and really take care of their plants, combined with New York's climate. And so there's just been few operators out of the 300, let's say that maybe 10 or 15 of them have been able to produce a high quality, a premium flower product. And I think that's more regulations and limits that have been placed on those farms, where they weren't able to fundraise for any indoor facilities. They weren't able to do anything to really increase the quality, because New York wanted to focus on cannabis as the place where energy efficiency needs to come from, not like oil or gas or anything else. So since that's where we need to get our sustainable energy practices implemented first, and cannabis, who already has enough challenges, we just, we have limited amounts of high quality flower, but I would say there is high quality flower. There's like 4 or 5 brands that really do have good stuff out there. It's hard to find, the SKUs run out, it takes a while before stores replenish right now, but it's a matter of time. What I wouldn't say is that it has to do with the critique of like, which is an easy one to make and it makes sense on the surface, like the hemp farmers don't have experience growing fire weed. It's because those guys got licensed that this isn't working. Like a lot of those guys that are producing the material right now and working with master growers that have worked with high quality cannabis for a long time, it's just challenging when you've got like 80% humidity. No, not at all, actually. Quite the opposite, where that's maybe even more likely to happen in a fresh state that doesn't use people with previous experience planting some kind of cannabis. Like there's years, I mean at least 2 years or 2 seasons, most 3 or 4 seasons of seeing the plant's behavior, in very basic ways that you don't have to be in the cannabis culture to understand, that most farmers can understand about a specialty.
So where do you stand on the issue? Be sure to let me know in the comments. Despite his assertion that farmers can move into pot growing, Nick said that he feels the challenges in cannabis are larger than any other industry he's ever come in contact with.
It's super challenging. I mean, I get the chance and opportunity because of mentors, because of family, to see other industries and how they operate, and I would say this is by far the most challenging one, because it's got difficulties in every sort of facet of the business. Money handling and finance and banking. Taxes, shipping and distributing. I guess just inherently, since everything's brand new and since it's federally illegal, it's a very, very tough industry.
Nick honed in on 2 core issues he feels the state needs to tackle to truly correct the state market's problems. The first being excise taxes that affect pricing, and the other being inaccessibility due to a lack of retail shops being open. Regarding the latter, he said he couldn't think of a solution, but suggested that the state may need to make concessions with ongoing lawsuits if they want to fix the problem anytime soon.
I would say it's 2 issues, 2 main issues, right? The number one is the tax structure that exists, and there was an attempt to repeal that this year. It didn't go through, but it was close. Maybe next year it will, where they have an excise tax that's the producers pay, and that excise tax isn't doubled when that's sold to the stores. So that's really causing pricing to be way above where it needs to be in all of the categories, really, because of that middle tax. Yeah. So they can move to take a tax at the end, increase that tax, and they would make roughly the same money. The math works out. So that would be that on pricing. And then on accessibility, I don't know what to really say that they could do about that at this point. I feel like we're too deep into a program that wasn't started from a legal perspective at least right in line with the MRTA. And so now it's just going to be concessions to every group that decides to attack for their own interests in every direction. Those concessions are going to have to be made, and it's going to be super rocky and tough before it gets any better. And try to make the right concessions to these groups so that we can get these 463 licensees operational, or as many of them as possible, more than 50% of them. We can create a market there. I mean, if we can, even if the RO is open, if we've got 250 card stores open, I think we have a super healthy market that's got balance from both sides, and that's gonna give the consumers what they want most. There's no solution, in my opinion, for access. They've been trying to do what they can, which is license a ton more licenses from the card applicants, and staffing more people to respond to the dispensaries requests faster, and respond to the opening requests faster, and approvals faster. I've heard from all the stores that that's all going on faster. So I think they're doing what they can there, but if the program fundamentally has a legal issue with its overall legal standing, it's going to be just a bunch of curveballs all the time. Yeah.
We also touched on John T's pricing philosophy, where Nick told me New York's excise tax, the unlicensed market, and the impact of all the other state markets are impacting their pricing decisions.
With John T and with all of the products that we're putting into the market, like barring the limitations that we have due to this tax, we've been releasing all of our products at what we see in every other state are like mature legal market prices, again considering the tax. That's what we've just started right off the bat with, because that's where we want to stay. And I think as a consumer, avid consumer all the time, there's form factor implications here. So like just like there is for alcohol and for wine and spirits, like you have a beer, you have a shot. Like if I have a vape cart, right, for the past 10 years in New York City, I've been buying a vape cart to smoke every few days for $50 to $60. That's just what the unlicensed market, the black market, right, the kind of the most free competing market that there is out there for this, because there's not all the regulations, has determined this form factor should last you like roughly a week, and so you're going to be willing to pay roughly $50 to $60, and that's going to be affordable, etc. That's the basing that we've been working off everything with, is like what makes sense for the form factor, what a mature market price is at. We're not going to look at collapsing market prices, right? Like in markets like Washington or Oregon, where people have really, really struggled, we're not going to model it based on that, because we can't struggle in the same way. But just as a consumer forever, since I was really young and still so, it just, some things just intuitively make sense, and that's why the black market has priced them where it has. So we're like right there at 60. But you can't get to the 45. I mean, if we didn't have the tax situation, we'd be selling 1 gram vapes at 45 right now.
While Nick and Dr. Dank may not always see eye to eye on the issues, they see similarly on THC percentage, and why it isn't always the be-all end-all metric that some make it out to be.
It goes right back to the same thing. Like if we're talking about any live or fresh frozen material oil output, whether that be solventless or hydrocarbon butane extracted live resin, be completely irrelevant essentially. I mean, you can just smoke more of it, I guess, if you really need to, but you're gonna get a pretty strong high. It'd be completely irrelevant essentially, with the full profile of other essential oils, other terpenes that are in there.
Right.
When you're making distillate, the highest quality distillate is the highest potency distillate, because since the process is so rough at the beginning, all of the material that you create in that crude oil is undesirable except for the cannabinoids that are in there. And so a distillate product like John T being at 90%, 85 to 90% plus is an indicator of a high quality distillate product. Rosin product being 65% or 85% is not an indicator of quality at all. So maybe I'm being too technical with it, but the answer is that potency doesn't really matter.
That was my interview with Naturae's Nick Guarino. I want to thank him for having me up in Albany last month, as well as taking the time to talk about this issue. I know a lot of the folks I operate with around the unlicensed space and the legacy and the advocacy side, a lot of them do think that it was a mistake bringing in hemp farmers to start things off. And I got to admit, when I brought product back in January from the dispensary, it was pretty weak. Since then, I've gotten 1 or 2 other pieces of flower, and it's good. It's good. I still prefer stuff from my plug. But yeah, you can find better product in my opinion and better prices. It is starting to line up more. There are definitely products that are getting in better quality, better price points, but it's not quite there yet, but it will. TBD. Definitely would love to get feedback from y'all. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you supporting it and incrementally gaining some following. So yeah, please subscribe to the channel, and whenever you can, shout me out. My name is Andrew Ward. I appreciate you watching. Stick around for more, and please subscribe.